participants and do not necessarily reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
Time now for the most listened to talk show in Vegas.
You think we're fighting, and I think we're finally talking.
Talking with those on the right, the left, and everywhere in between.
Quiet. Shut up and let me answer, okay?
Answer.
Pot him down, please, because this is another MAGA who doesn't understand how to have a conversation with somebody.
It's Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro.
I'm kind of a big deal.
This show will make you laugh, make you cry, and it might raise Brian's blood pressure.
You know what, dude? People like you, all you do is make excuses for the orange turd, and I've had it.
All the smash and grabs and everything. Yeah, tell me, what race is doing that, first of all?
Okay, so you want to be a racist now. Okay.
What race is doing it? Seen it on the news?
I don't watch Klan TV like you do, sir.
Buckle up, because it's Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro.
You're different. I like you.
Now, here's Brian.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us on what is going to be a very busy Pushing the Limit show on a Wednesday. I appreciate all of you being here. You could be listening, of course, the FM AM dial KSHP here in Vegas, across the World Wide Web, on my personal YouTube page at PTL Radio Show, the Occupy Democrats Network, the Washington Press Network. We're on X, we're on Twitch. We are everywhere, one of the fastest growing shows in the country, and we appreciate you being a part of our show and what we do here. We're hearing a lot of questions, right? A lot of questions in regards to the state of Nevada. A lot of Republicans are voting early. What does that mean? To give us the rundown, Jon Ralston from the Nevada Independent is going to be joining us here in just a few minutes. He's going to be talking to us about that. And my question is, well, can it just be possible that these are people that were going to vote on Election Day anyway, and some of them are just voting early? So Republicans are starting to count their chickens, I think, a little bit too soon. So we'll talk a little bit about that with Jon Ralston. Then coming up at the bottom of the hour, Lev Parnas. I'm going to announce this publicly right now on the show. So Lev Parnas is going to be joining us in studio next week, but he's going to be joining us on the show today as well. And the reason why Lev Parnas is joining us on the show is because not only does he have a new book out, but I am going to be hosting an event with him in Las Vegas next week in regards to his new documentary that's out. We're going to be at Planet 13 next week. It'll be an opportunity to meet Lev Parnas, myself. So we'll give you a little bit more details about that as the week goes on. But, yeah, I'll be hosting an event with Lev Parnas next week. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And Lev Parnas is going to be joining us at the bottom of the hour. Boy, did you hear about Rudy Giuliani? I mean, he's got to give up all of his assets, or most of them anyway. His car, his apartment in New York City. He's got to give that up this week. So we'll be talking to Lev about that and much, much more. But without further ado, always love picking this man's brain. Love what they do at the Nevada Independent. A bunch of great journalists over there, fair, decent, good people. And it is always a pleasure to have Jon Ralston from the Nevada Independent joining us right now on the show. John, I really do appreciate you coming on such a very busy time, I'm sure, for yourself and the Nevada Independent. How are you, sir?
I am barely awake, Brian, but I appreciate the invitation. But can I say one thing? Did I hear you say that you're talking to Lev Parnas?
I am at the bottom of the hour, and I'm actually hosting an event with him in Las Vegas next week.
I want you to do me a favor, if you can remember to do this.
Sure.
Ask him about his interactions with Adam Laxalt. See what you can find out.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to do that just for you today, and then I will send you the clip. How does that sound? I will do that for you. No problem.
Thank you.
Sure. So first of all, thank you so much for coming on, John. Really appreciate your work. All right, let me ask you the big question right out of the gates. You've been giving out the numbers. You guys have been right on it with the early voting, and a lot of Republicans. The Republican turnout, I'm sure you would agree, has been pretty good. Give me the numbers. Tell me about it. And do you think some Republicans are counting their chickens too soon? And are these people that probably would just be voting on Election Day anyway? What are your thoughts?
You ask all the right questions as usual, Brian. You've done your homework. Listen, here's the story. I've never seen in the era of the Democrats winning presidential races here starting in 2008, this kind of turnout pattern that favors Republicans. They have about a 3% or so, and it's a little less than that now. I'm sorry I mentioned that there's not enough coffee in the world, but they have about a 3% lead. The rural counties are turning out in such force and in such landslides for Republicans that's why they have that lead right now. And the Democrats are not doing what they usually do, which is build up a firewall, as I call it, in Clark County. So if you're a Democrat, does that mean all is lost? No. That's not right. there's so many independents out there. The Democrats think they have an edge with independents, and they know how to turn out voters. As I said to someone earlier, it's basically the Reid machine versus Elon Musk and Charlie Kirk. Who are you going to put your money on in that battle? So I do think the Republicans, while they may be counting, as you put it, counting their chickens before they're hatched, I think there's something else going on. They're trying to create a narrative of inevitability after just a few days of early voting. They even put out a rumor today that Kamala Harris is pulling all her ads from Nevada. She's given up. It's all nonsense. So the Democrats still think they can win here. But here's what they think, Brian, based on the numbers, and the numbers aren't surprising them that much, is that it's going to be a 5,000 or 10,000 vote race. And I hope they're wrong, mainly because I want it to be decisive for all the reasons that I know you understand.
No, I agree 150%. So this is the tough part about this, John, and I don't know how there's a way to even find this out, but I'm thinking to myself, couldn't these just be Republicans that would normally vote on election day, and maybe they're voting early, right? That could be a possibility. I guess that's impossible to know for sure, right?
Well, a person that you and I both have a great deal of admiration for, Michael McDonald, the chairman of the state Republican Party, put out today that he is voting early for the first time in his life because he wants his vote to count.
At the J.D. Vance event, he said that, yep.
So, I mean, give me a break. I mean, first of all, raising the specter of election fraud again, but it's clear that they have made a pitch now, let's bank our votes, which is usually what the Democrats do. So are they cannibalizing that election day vote, as you alluded to it, that usually favors them? And I mean, the Republicans had an 11% turnout advantage last cycle. That's pretty big. They usually have 4.5 or 5 point turnout advantage. So it'll be interesting to see how many rural voters turn out. They're already turning out in percentage terms, Brian, way above the urban counties. And people should know too, and at noon on is it Wednesday, Brian? That Washoe County has had some problems counting mail ballots, and that there's a backlog there, and those will favor the Democrats.
Right. Now, this is my personal opinion on this, and I want to pick your brain on this. I don't know what's going to happen in this state. Could go either way, but I really think it comes down to Pennsylvania. And I'm not saying that Nevada is extremely important. I'm not discounting that. But I really feel like, and this is just my personal opinion, that whoever wins Pennsylvania is probably going to win the Electoral College. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's probably true. And I think both campaigns think that. And it's why they're expending so much energy there. It has the most electoral votes of all the battleground states. Now, there are other paths to victory. But if you lose Pennsylvania, you have absolutely zero margin for error. And you've got to win states that maybe you're not winning right now. So, yeah, I mean, I don't like to say any state matters as much as Nevada, as you know, but right. Pennsylvania really matters.
Oh, no question about that. And, you know, all the hard hitters have been here, right, John? I mean, last week I saw Obama speak. Yesterday I met Bill Clinton. He was at Doolittle Community Center in Las Vegas. J.D. Vance spoke this morning. Donald Trump is going to be holding a rally at the Thomas and Mack Center tomorrow. Dr. Jill Biden was in town today. In fact, I drove past her motorcade earlier this morning. I mean, this is crazy, isn't it, John? I mean, we always see before an election the heavy hitters coming out, but not as much as. Have you ever seen this much?
I guess I have a hard time remembering that it's been this much. There have been so many Democratic surrogates that have been coming out here this cycle, and we don't cover most of them just because it's just not really that newsworthy. You know, Kamala Harris is wonderful, you know, all that stuff. Okay, we know that's what you think. But the actual candidates themselves making a late push, it's happened. But, you know, Walz is going to be in Nevada on Sunday. Right. I hear that the vice president might be back here next week, which is a sign they clearly have not given up on Nevada. And so there have been a lot of visits, and they know it's close. Their internal numbers show what Trump's internal numbers show, which is it's very, very close.
What would you say to Republicans out there throughout the country that believe that Nevada, it's a done deal? It's a done deal, and Donald Trump is going to win the state of Nevada based on all of, I know I'm going back to that first question, but based on all of the numbers that are in with early voters. I gave you my opinions, and you've given out the numbers. What would you say to those Republicans out there that are claiming victory already?
I think it's very, very foolish. But again, and you have, there's two separate kinds of people who are doing that, Brian. One are the morons on social media who don't know any better and want to, put out, oh, poor Democrats, they're going to lose Nevada and blah, blah. You got to cope. I mean, it's so insipid. It's not really worth saying much more than that. And then there are the operatives who want to put out there that he's doing really well here to energize the base here and elsewhere. Republicans want to vote for a winner. If they think Trump is going to win, maybe those that haven't voted will vote now. But there is no one who understands this stuff, including Republicans who understand this stuff, that thinks this is over yet. Would I rather be the Republicans than the Democrats right now? Of course. Of course, there's no other way to look at it. But does that mean that I give you a different answer maybe 7-10 days from now? Maybe.
Sure. Absolutely. A couple more quick questions for you. Again, if you're just joining us, Jon Ralston does a great job for the Nevada Independent. So, John, I guess, I've had, call me cynical, but, even the John Kelly stuff that's come out in the last 24 hours, I don't think it matters what Donald Trump says or does. I don't think it's going to change the outcome of what's going to happen here in a couple of weeks, but I want to get your thoughts on this. Do you think it matters at all? I mean, listen, I think John Kelly's very credible. Don't get me wrong. And I believe him when he calls Donald Trump a fascist or alludes that he's a fascist, and the praising of Adolf Hitler and the suckers and losers and all this stuff. I think it's very credible because I believe that's who Donald Trump is. But do you think any of this stuff is going to make a difference for voters at this point, 2 weeks before the elections?
Well, I don't know who these undecided voters are, right, Brian? Like, how can you be undecided in this race?
Right.
But that's a different issue. So if undecided voters are, Trump curious, don't know Harris that well, just know that what's been on TV, that, she's a communist and all the rest of it, they're looking for a reason to vote for her instead of Trump. And so if this puts them over the top on that, maybe it could help. But, it seems to me that all of that stuff is pretty baked in. I mean, as you put it, that's who Donald Trump is. He doesn't even try to hide it at all. It's gotten worse, I think, and he has absolutely no self-control anymore in the stuff that he says. But can it help at the margins? I mean, let me go back to what I said. If this is a 5,000 or 10,000 vote race, it's going to be hard to pinpoint why someone won. Was it the abortion? Was it immigration? Was it Trump's a terrible person? Was it Harris can't do the job? Whatever. Was it the independents breaking the wrong way, not turning out enough? Whatever. There's still so many wild cards out there. That's what's different for me in analyzing this. Usually by now I'm saying Democrats have a 40 or 50,000 vote lead in Nevada. They're banking votes. The Republicans are going to have a tough time catching up on election day. It's a totally new world for me.
If the elections were held tomorrow, will you give a prediction? Do you think that Donald Trump wins the state? If you had to give a prediction, what do you think is going to happen?
The great thing is I don't have to.
That's true.
So I do this crazy thing, as you know, Brian, every cycle. I predict the outcomes 3 days before the election. And I'll still do that, even though I wish I had done the mic drop in 22 when I predicted Lombardo and Cortez Masto. But listen, I think if the election were just these votes that are out there now, I think Trump probably has an advantage. It all depends on what she's winning in these by. And there's one other thing it depends on. It depends on how much he's hemorrhaging off of his base. In other words, are there Lynn Cheney type Republicans who are voting for Harris? I just don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that, and that's understandable. Last question for you. Are you worried about political violence? Because, no matter who wins, there's going to be a lot of people, half the country, maybe more, are going to be upset, right? I'm a little bit more worried if Kamala Harris wins of political violence. Are you worried, John, that we're not going to find out the outcome of the election? Probably not that night, probably not the next day. It could take weeks. Does that bother you? Does that worry you?
Both. It really worries me. I think there's a very good chance we don't know the outcome of the election on election night. We may not know who won Nevada on election night, and we can expect a replay of 2020 when Trump declares victory and essentially says, stop the count. And so, I'm very worried about how his followers will react to all of that. I don't think we should discount the possibility of violence on the other side if Trump wins, but we've already seen January 6th and who did that. I'm hoping that if Trump were to win, the Democrats would not behave that way. But it's going to depend on a lot of different circumstances.
I agree. Before I let you go, I love what you guys do at the Nevada Independent, John. Have so much respect for you. Can you give out the information? How can people donate? How can people learn more and support what you guys are doing at the Great Nevada Independent?
Thanks for that, Brian. You always give me a chance to say this. I'm so proud of this staff and their dedication to presenting fair and deeply reported stories. People should go to NevadaIndependent.com. Don't take my word for it. And if you believe me, if you find out that I'm right, hit that support our work button. Give us $5, $10, $20 a month. That's how we survive into the future.
No doubt. And whenever I need the latest information on anything political news when it comes to this state, I'm always going to Nevada Independent. You guys do such a great job. John, thank you so much for your time as always, man. Really appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon, brother. Get some sleep.
It's always a pleasure. I want to hear about that Parnas question.
I will. I will send you a message later, and I will ask that question about Adam Laxalt. John, have a great rest of your day, my friend. Appreciate the hard work. Thank you.
See you, Brian. Thank you.
Take care. All right, Jon Ralston, everybody. Again, check out NevadaIndependent.com. You guys are so good. Jon Ralston is the best. I mean, really, he's just a straight shooter. He covers everything honestly, non-biased, and there's not many people like that out there these days. And John's one of the best in the business, and I really appreciate what he does. And I will ask Lev Parnas coming up that Adam Laxalt question. But before I do that, John Kelly's said on the record before some things about Donald Trump. He said some more things to the New York Times yesterday in an audio interview. And just to give people a little bit of background on Kelly, he lost his son who served. They're a Gold Star family. Kelly has dedicated his life to public service. And he was asked by this New York Times journalist in this interview about Trump's comments and admiration at times for Adolf Hitler. Have a listen to this.
He commented more than once that, that Hitler did some good things too. And of course, if you know history, again, I think he's lacking in that. But if you know what Hitler was all about, it'd be pretty hard to make an argument that he did anything good.
So what would you say when he said to you that Hitler did a lot of good things?
Well, I tell him that. I said, first of all, you should never say that. But if you knew what Hitler was all about from the beginning to the end, everything he did was in support of his racist, fascist life, philosophy, so that nothing he did you could argue was good. It was certainly not done for the right reason. And but he would occasionally say that.
What would he say when you would lay that out to him?
He'd just, that would be the end of the conversation usually.
That would be the end of the conversation. Listen, folks, make no mistake about it. If Adolf Hitler was still alive today, Donald Trump would be writing him love letters and sending him COVID test kits. Because Donald Trump admires somebody like Adolf Hitler. He wants to be an evil, murderous dictator. And I'm done making excuses and saying, well, we shouldn't compare Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler. Donald Trump has very similar characteristics in some aspects to Adolf Hitler, and the fact that he wants everybody to kiss his feet. He admires people like Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un, and he admires Adolf Hitler. And I'm so glad that John Kelly made that case because it's really, really important. And the interview goes on where John Kelly makes the case that Donald Trump fits a true fascist. And the interview is continued here where John Kelly goes on Donald Trump's absurd and ridiculous behavior.
He basically said to you that those who died for America on the battlefield were losers and suckers, and he said it more than once.
Yes, but he would say it would always that something else would get him going off at times again, McCain. But he never could wrap his arms around why people would serve the country in uniform. What was in it for them? That was the general theme.
So why? Why does he not understand it? Well, first of all, he dodged the military multiple times. But to answer that, because Donald Trump has never done anything for anybody else but himself. When people decide to serve our brave men and women in uniform, they don't think of themselves first. They think of the country first. That's why we call them heroes. That's why we say they're brave. That's why most of us respect their service a great deal. The reason why Donald Trump doesn't is because he doesn't understand what it means to serve, and he doesn't understand what it means to do something to help somebody else without it helping you. Not worrying about yourself and putting somebody else first. He's never done that his entire life, and that's why he doesn't understand it. And when he sees these grave sites, like in Arlington Cemetery, and when he considers these people suckers and losers, because he sees it as, well, they just died, and they should still be alive today. Why did they even decide to serve? Look what it did to them. Instead of a normal human being that would say, well, geez, they paid the ultimate price for our freedom. They paid the ultimate price so that people like you and me can do what we want to do and have the freedoms in this country. It's called being a hero, and Donald Trump has no understanding of what that word means and what it means to serve this country. That's why. So how is the right spinning this, right? How are they spinning the statements of John Kelly? I mean, they can try to disparage John Kelly, but the man is a hero. He's spent his entire life in public service. He lost his son in the battlefield. What's the reason why John Kelly would lie? Well, if they're not going that route, Brian Kilmeade, that little weasel on Fox News today, you're not going to believe this. This is Brian Kilmeade, who's trying to make the case that Trump was maybe talking about German generals under Hitler who weren't Nazis. Folks, you cannot make this stuff up. Listen to how they're curling into a pretzel on Fox News this morning.
But the bottom line is, if you read H.R. McMaster's book, who is critical of President Trump in some of it and not in others, he talks about how Madison Kelly didn't like the president, and they didn't think he deserved the job, or they didn't think he was worthy of the job, and they went out of his way to make sure a lot of the things they asked him to do that they didn't like never got done. McMaster would be frustrated because he couldn't get their attention, and he would say, it's not your job to rein in the president. It's your job to do what the president wants. And then you factor in the fact that he runs his own company, coming from the business world, the first one we've ever had. It's not even a public company. And then he obviously has frustration. And I could absolutely see him go, now, you know what? It would be great to have German generals that actually do what we asked them to do, knowing that's maybe not fully being cognizant of the third rail of German generals who were Nazis and whatever. But he was frustrated with the slowdown of
it wasn't just a slowdown, it was insubordination. And there is a culture within Washington, not just when it comes to the generals, who, by the way, should be fired after what happened in Afghanistan, of insubordination in the sense that the bureaucrats run the government. The founders did not design this country to be that way. Unelected people don't get to run the country, even if you have 4 stars behind your name. And I think they were very frustrated that you had this outside guy that says, listen, I'm in charge now.
Do you listen to how they're trying to spin the comments of John Kelly and the fact of the matter that Donald Trump has admiration for evil, murderous dictators like an Adolf Hitler? And they try to spin it and talk about the Afghanistan withdrawal. And Brian Kilmeade's talking about how, well, I think Donald Trump was talking about German generals under Hitler who weren't Nazis. If I had $1 for every single time one of these right-wing buffoons would say, here's what I think Donald Trump was trying to say, I would be a millionaire, okay? I would be a millionaire. They're trying to discredit John Kelly and give credit and defend Orange Turd Cheeto Jesus, the liable rapist and the 34-count felon. They're trying to defend their orange man, and they're trying to go after an honorable, decent, good man who has served this country honorably in John Kelly, who lost his son on the battlefield. You cannot make this stuff up, and these Brian Kilmeades of the world, and quite frankly, any other right-wing buffoon that doesn't believe John Kelly but believes Donald Trump when he says, oh, I never said that stuff, you are complicit at a minimum, and you're a disgrace. So, I mentioned this to start the show. I'm going to be guest hosting an event in Las Vegas this Monday. It's going to be at Planet 13, which is an awesome facility. And the man that we are going to be having the event for is a former associate of Rudy Giuliani. He's done this show multiple times. I have the tremendous amount of respect for him. His new documentary is phenomenal. If you haven't seen it, you got to check it out. They're going to be screening it at Planet 13. He's got a new book out, and it's a pleasure to have on once again Lev Parnas joining us right now on the show. Lev, thank you so much for being here. It's good to see you, my friend. How are you?
Thank you, Brian. It's an honor to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. So my last guest was Jon Ralston, who's moderated presidential debates, and he works for the Nevada Independent. Great guy. So I promised him I would ask you this question to start. Can you explain to us any interaction at all and your thoughts on Adam Laxalt? I promised him I would ask you that. what can you tell us about Adam Laxalt?
Where do you want to begin? I think part of our show could be great. I mean, for Monday, we could do a whole special about Adam because it is in Las Vegas. But I had a very close relationship with Adam Laxalt, and he actually testified in my case. He was one of the witnesses in my trial, and he was part of the reason. One of my indictments was that I was supposedly bribing Laxalt to get a cannabis license. So yeah, I know Adam very well, and we could definitely go into it. So, but if there's anything in particularly you'd like to know right now, you can go ahead and ask me if there's any.
Well, we can get more into this on Monday, but personally, I mean, is this a two-faced guy, a guy like so many others that you were alongside with at one time, lying for Donald Trump, willing to do and say anything for Donald Trump? Is Adam Laxalt one of those guys?
Oh, as I mean, 100%. I mean, he's beyond two-faced. First of all, he lied in my court case. He lied on the stand. He lied on his law degree, where he lied, said he never was arrested when he was arrested for DUI, which we all know about that. He's a liar. But he's also, what he showed me is that he's willing to do and go wherever it takes to be able to win the seat. And when he was running for governor, from attorney general, I've had plenty of meetings with him. I have plenty of text messages with him. I would, definitely, if you're interested, we could do a little expose on Adam Laxalt and about, some of the stuff that he was involved with. And actually, you could see that after my involvement with him and after I brought him closer to Trump, how he quickly went that hardcore mega route right after that. You could see. Yeah.
We'll definitely go into more into that when we see you here in Las Vegas. No question about that, Lev. So I have to get your thoughts on this as a former associate of Rudy Giuliani, and you know the man pretty well. This week, I'm sure you heard the news. He's got to give up, I believe, his apartment in New York City. He's giving up a car. He's giving up memorabilia he has. It's all crashing this week where, while he's not going to be broke, he's still going to have a place to live. He's not going to be homeless. I'm wondering what your thoughts on that when you saw that story. This is the first step of many steps of him giving up a lot of what he owns.
My first thought was accountability is finally happening. Finally, we're starting to see accountability. I'm so, happy and thrilled for Shane Moss and Rudy Freeman, especially what he put them through to finally start being able to, even the way he used the system to try to hide his assets, play games with it. And the best part of it all is, for Rudy, it's not even the money so much because he lives off other people's money anyway. So nothing's going to change as far as that concerned. I mean, the hard thing for him is going to be some of those memorabilia pieces that I know they're trying to save the rings, which I don't think is going to happen because Rudy never handed over those rings to Andrew. I was witness to that. Rudy would never do that. Andrew's just trying to write that letter to try to be able to save him because those are the most important things Rudy cares about is those World Series rings. But everything else, I mean, listen, it's accountability, Brian. It's coming. This is just the beginning of it. It's starting to be financially for Rudy, but, it's going to trickle down to all of them where eventually Rudy, is not going to need the money once he's sitting in a prison cell in Georgia.
Lev, what's amazing to me, before we even get to his daughter and the comments she's made, is the fact that if you asked Rudy Giuliani today, do you regret anything you've said or anything you've done? He'll say no, and he'll double down on the nonsense, and he'll blame the courts, the judge, the jury, and even the victims. What do you make of that even at this point, he still is not willing to admit he did anything wrong or said anything wrong?
That's already part of Donald Trump's playbook and the cult mentality that Rudy, I think he's already hardcore in the cult mentality himself, where Donald Trump taught all of us with that Russian playbook that you never admit that you're wrong. You double down and you always keep saying it until they agree with you. And that's just, you're seeing just an image of everybody in that cult mentality of Trump cult, because that's what they do. They always double down. Just even like your last segment where you were talking about Kelly and him talking about, I mean, just think about it. They're again doubling down. They're again blaming the victim. They're again, and it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if it's a Fox News host, if it's Rudy Giuliani. It's that whole cult mentality that they're all a part of, that it's basically never admit that you're wrong and you're always right and keep moving.
You know, Lev, sometimes we forget that there are families involved here, and some family members are innocent. And I think of Rudy Giuliani's daughter, who seems like a lovely lady, very intelligent. Yeah, and I'm sure you met her before. Have you met her before, by the way?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she's a wonderful lady. Yeah. She's a great girl. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so you know, and the reason why I bring her up is because she's done some interviews, and she says that she feels like she lost her father. That's the word that she used as soon as he decided to collaborate, for lack of a better term, with Donald Trump and associate himself with Trump. And she lost her father. Now, she since has come out and spoken out against Trump. I think she's a woman with a lot of courage, like you, by the way. And she has endorsed Kamala Harris, just like you. And I think that took a lot of courage from a family of Republicans for her to do that. I was very impressed by that. But I also feel a lot of sorrow for her, because it's almost like she's lost her father, right, Lev?
I mean, she did. I mean, you got. I don't want to go too much into their personal stuff because of respect for Caroline and her own, relationship with Rudy. But they never had a really good relationship, with Rudy's job. I mean, and the family environment between him, Andrew, and Caroline was never, especially Caroline was always leaning more left, in her beliefs. She moved out to California. She, me and her both, like, behind Rudy's back, knew that we smoked cannabis, which Rudy was against, stuff like that, where she already had her different opinions with Rudy. But when he, at the point where, if I remember correctly, they were just starting to formulate a really good relationship when he turned to Trump. And that was really another, because, we've been to a couple of places together where I saw that, she tried, but it was difficult because of Rudy's ranting and raving about all these things that, to hear. And for her now to come out and say it, it's, and I kind of, understand her a lot, because in my own family environment, because of me being so close to Trump, and I have kids that, still, one of my sons, because of the environment we live in, still kind of, he's not a Trumper, but is still, brainwashed, because he grew up in my household in that environment when I was hardcore MAGA. Whereas my other kids are, as you know, Aaron is, on the right side of the track and, fighting for democracy. So I have it in my own family environment, and I understand that, and it's very sad. And that's what Donald Trump has done to our country. He's not only divided us as from a political stance, he's divided us in our families and our businesses and our friends. And that's why it's so hard for when people say, you gotta just leave the cult. You can't just leave the cult, because what do? You wake up one morning and you just stop talking to everybody, stop going to work, stop going to school, stop associating with yourself and start a new life, just get up and move. It's not that easy. And that's why there's even a lot of people that are hijacked that want this to stop, that want to get rid of him, but they can't because of what's going on.
You're so right. It's not so easy. If you're just joining us, by the way, Lev Parnas, and I'm announcing, as I have announced today, that he's going to be in Las Vegas. In fact, he's going to be in studio here Monday. But even more importantly, yeah, I'm looking forward to meet you as well, Lev. But we're going to be at Planet 13, which is a wonderful facility. And we're going to be doing a screening of your new documentary, which is so great, by the way. It's emotional. It's got, ups and downs, and we really learn a lot about you, and it really is great. So we're going to be screening the new documentary at Planet 13. In a day or two, I'll give everybody a little bit more information about how they can buy tickets. It's going to be a very intimate setting. People will be able to meet you, and I'm really looking forward to that. There'll be a Q&A, and I'll give people more information as I get it in the coming days, as far as how you can get tickets for it. And as I said, Lev will be in studio next week. So, Lev, here we are now, less than 2 weeks before the election. It's amazing how this has just creeped up upon us, right? You have a lot of new information that's come out that probably won't change the election. As far as John Kelly, we talked about his statements. I'm wondering how you're feeling. You've been traveling all over the country. You're talking to a lot of prospective voters and maybe those who have already voted. What is your sense in traveling all over and speaking to voters all over the country on what's going on here and what you think is going to happen?
I feel good. I feel, very positive, seeing what's happening around the country when you leave the mega environments that, I still live in. But when you go out of it and you go around the country, shows me a lot of positivity that people are, coming out to vote. As you could see, the early voting is coming out very good numbers. And it's giving me a lot of positivity because I truly believe that this is not going to be a close election. I think that the country is going to come out and show exactly that we're tired of all of this rhetoric and all of this nonsense dictatorship and give Donald Trump a kick in his ass and get rid of him forever. So I feel good about it. I think it's going to be a good way. That doesn't mean we need to stop. I think we need to keep pushing and going forward and even harder every day by day. And that's why, I'm coming to Vegas, and I'm also going to try to go out to North Carolina and some other states to try to be able to, because one thing I have noticed that a lot of people that are even undecided or are leaning towards Trump really don't have enough information or haven't been a part of or really are just disinformed because they watch Fox News. And I think shows like yours and doing more of these events, especially in the next 14 days, I think is, just getting the information out to people is going to be important. But I truly believe it's going to be a landslide, and I hope I'm right with that.
Lev, we're on the same side, my friend. I hope so as well. But I think maybe even you have more vested in this than I do. And I want to ask you this question, and I'm sorry I have to ask it. But if, in fact, Donald Trump does win, obviously we hope that doesn't happen. But if it does, I mean, are you worried for your own safety? Are you worried that Donald Trump, he's talked about being a dictator on day one. He's talked about retribution. And I would imagine when he uses that term, he's talking probably about a lot of people, but you being one of them. Are you really worried if in fact he does win and when he uses that term retribution?
Oh, absolutely. Not only am I worried, I'm terrified, not just for myself, but for a lot of people, because you got to understand when he says these things, it's not Donald Trump that's going to go out there and do it himself. It's people that he's going to put in positions of power, and the most dangerous position for all of us is who's going to be the next attorney general, who's going to run the DOJ and have the power to lock people up and to take away our freedom, which is the most important thing. And that's going to be probably either your Kash Patel or your General Flynn, somebody that is not only loyal to his cause, but also has his own agenda and his own gripe to feed from his own personal interactions with a lot of what was going on in these people. So it's extremely dangerous because of not just him being in power, because people seem to overlook the biggest thing is who's going to be in position of power to run our country. Nobody around him right now. You have to take a look. There's nobody. There's Kellys, the McManuses. I mean, all of these people that have the respect and that we thought that they control, and they're not there. The people that are around them, you have the Stephen Millers, the Jason Millers, the Kash Patels, the General Flynns. These are the people that are going to be your Secretary of State. And that's where the danger is even more because, the president has only certain power. You still have other positions and that's where our checks and balances have always been. So why we made America such a great country, because the president has checks and balances. But the way you take away those checks and balances is if you put people in those powers of loyalty to him and not to the Constitution, not to the people. And that's where, the problem is, because right now, even if he were to win, who would be running our country? It wouldn't be him. It would be these people that put together Project 2025, and they're going to implement it with him without him even. He doesn't have to do it, because once they're in their own positions of power, it's part of the system. They'll be able to implement and do things without even, people knowing until it's too late. And that's why it's so scary.
Lev, I talk about this every day, what a Donald Trump administration would look like. If you think his administration in 2016 was kooky, imagine what it will look like if he gets back in office. You mentioned some of those names, the Stephen Millers, the Sebastian Gorkas, felons. It's scary, isn't it? The types of people that will be in powerful positions, convicted felons, the Stephen Bannons. These are the kinds of people that will be working in his administration. And Lev, what I tell people is, even if you don't like all of Kamala Harris's policies, look at the people that she's going to have around her. She's going to have serious, competent people around her. Trump's not going to have anybody serious around him. He's going to have
not only that, Brian, but I'll even take it a step further. What people need to realize that to be able to pass any type of law, to pass any type of policies, you need to be able to negotiate with Congress and Senate. Even if the Republicans were to win the House and the Senate, they wouldn't agree with Trump on anything. I mean, he doesn't have the support of the Republican Party. He has the support of few mega people in those groups. So he doesn't even have the support of anybody in any of the positions of power that to be able to even negotiate. All it would be a shit show of revenge and going after people and doing presidential, authority, and that's it. I mean, that's what he would turn into, because there's nobody, and that's what people need to realize. It's like running a if he's the CEO, who's going to be managing and running the company? You're going to have a bunch of, it's like open up the asylum, let the nuts out, and let them run your country. Basically, that's what you're saying by voting for Trump. So
no question,
it's not even a close one. I mean, and that's why when people talk about policy, Brian, I stop right there. I said, this election is not about policy. It doesn't matter who's the worst or the best. We're talking about saving our democracy. We're talking about either you're having a criminal, a dictator, a tyrant in office, or you're having somebody that you don't like or you disagree with. You might not like or disagree with that. I'm not telling you to, but you can't, it's like, use Trump's own words. I mean, this is a person that likes Hannibal Lecter. He thinks Al Capone is a great guy. The guy that murdered hundreds of people, he talks about him as a great guy. Is this who we want our kids to look up to and say, this is who's running our country? I don't believe Americans are going to do it. And that's why I think, even though a lot of people are out there are scared to talk, but when they're...
Did we lose Lev? Did we lose Lev Parnas? It was just getting really, really good. Hopefully we'll get him back. Live radio, if you're just joining us, we're speaking to Lev Parnas. I'm going to be hosting an event with him, a screening of his new documentary at Planet 13. It's going to be this Monday. I'm going to give you all more information as I get it, as far as how to buy tickets and how to be a part of the event. Again, it's going to be at Planet 13. It's going to be Monday early evening, where you're going to get an opportunity to screen the new documentary and get a chance to meet Lev Parnas yourself and say hello to me if you're a fan of the show. That's going to be in Las Vegas at Planet 13 Monday night. So we're certainly looking forward to that. And that's why we're having Lev on. And also, of course, to talk about all the news regarding Rudy Giuliani having to give up all of his, not really all of his belongings, but some of his belongings, including his car, his place in New York City, some of the memorabilia that he has in his place, having to give all that up. So I asked him about that. Of course, Lev has a lot riding on this election. We all do, right? But Lev, even times 10, he's afraid of retribution. Rightfully so. I don't blame him for being afraid of retribution. So we appreciate Lev being a part of the show, and really looking forward to having him also come in studio. He's going to be here this Monday in studio to talk to us. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. All right, so here's what we're going to do. That was towards the end of the interview anyway, but I appreciate Lev Parnas coming on. I did want to talk a little bit about his book, but we're going to have probably Lev joining us again on Friday, and he's going to be coming in studio on Monday. So you're going to hear a lot from Lev Parnas, and I'll be asking him a lot more questions, including Adam Laxalt. He knows a thing or two about Adam Laxalt, so I appreciate Lev joining us on the show. So we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will be taking some phone calls. A lot of information out, including John Kelly's statements, calling Donald Trump basically a fascist, or the definition of a fascist, the admiration of Adolf Hitler, which I believe rings true. I don't think there's any question about that. So we're going to be talking about that and much, much more. So the number to call, 702-221-7283, if you want to be a part of the program. Before we take a quick break, I also want to say that this is an independently owned radio show. We appreciate your support. What can you do to help us besides listening, of course, and spreading the word? Subscribe to my YouTube page at PTL Radio Show. You get all that information on my new website. The new website's pushingthelimits.live. I say new because it's really only been around for a couple months. Pushingthelimits.live. So how can you get involved and help us do what we do here to keep the lights on? Well, simply put, there's merchandise up there you can buy. You'll see it on the shopping icon on the website, pushingthelimits.live. Shirts, beanies, hats, we sell it. If you don't want to buy merchandise, totally cool. There's also a donate button on the front page. $5, $10, $20, doesn't matter, whatever you can afford, we appreciate per month, and that helps us keep doing what we do. So check out the website, pushingthelimits.live. We are going to take a quick break. We'll be back in 90 seconds with your calls. It's why this is the most interactive show in the country. 702-221-7283. Your calls are coming up next. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
In these uncertain times, we need a leader who puts policy over politics.
I'm Ron Quince. I am beyond the bickering and what we see today. I am running to fight for your values, faith, family, and freedom.
Ron Quince stands for safe borders, lower taxes, and lower prices.
Let's take our country back, one community, one vote at a time. I am Ron Quince, and I'm asking for your vote because every vote matters. I am Ron Quince, and I approve this message.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York-style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercial, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most importantly, how to monetize your dream radio show. You'll learn from some of the best in the business with over 75 years in broadcast experience. You'll learn from people like me. And the best part? Every single student will be live on the radio as part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call. 702-763-5024. That's 702-763-5024. Or check them out at RadioYOU101.com.
This message.
Shelley Berkeley, a proud Las Vegan who shatters barriers, becoming the first in her family to attend college, and served as UNLV's student body president, serving in the Nevada legislature, the University Board of Regents, and 7 terms in the U.S. House of Representatives. Shelley excelled as the senior VP of the Toro University System. Shelley Berkeley, a dedicated mother and family woman. Shelley has the experience we need as our next mayor. Shelley gets things done.
Paid for by Shelley Berkeley for mayor.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Wednesday. Man, we got a lot of exciting things to talk about. Before I get to some of those exciting things, if you're looking for an exciting place to hang out, well, then check out the official gaming bar of the Pushing the Limits radio show, which is Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. The Pass the Puck contest for Vegas Golden Knights games is probably the best gaming promotion in town. Of course, if you earn 350 points on a Sunday, noon to 8 a.m., you get $50 in free slot play. Great food, great atmosphere, great people. Jackson's Bar and Grill, Flamingo and Jones. Tell them I sent you. So I have a couple show updates for you if you're a PTL radio fan. Some things that I'd like to share with you, for lack of a better term. First of all, I had the chance to meet Slick Willie himself, Bill Clinton, last night. Not every day you get a chance to meet a former president, and I spoke with him for a few minutes. We mainly spoke about golf, but I told him how I felt about his presidency. Man made some mistakes. Certainly, he's not perfect, but as far as a president that got things done and left us in a surplus, Bill Clinton, from a financial standpoint, was a great president, and he was speaking at an event here in Las Vegas, obviously touring and campaigning for Kamala Harris. So it was great to meet Bill Clinton and talk with him and get a picture. And, that was very cool. I have also shared some news with you, even though I can't share everything, that this show is going into syndication. How many radio stations exactly, I don't know yet. It's being in the works right now as we speak. And as I get more information, I can't wait to share it with you. But this is going to be happening sooner than later. And as soon as I get more information on the syndication of the Pushing the Limits radio show, I will share it with you. But we're really excited about that. There's so many exciting things to be talking about when it comes to this show. And also, I am collaborating with a national news person, somebody that you know who's pretty popular, and we are going to be doing election night coverage. As I get this stuff confirmed, it will probably not be in the state of Nevada. I will probably be flying to a swing state, and we are going to do coverage all night. And what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to do a call-in show, too. As we get more information in, we'll be taking calls. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a great collaboration, and I will tell you a little bit more about that as time progresses here. We're 2 weeks before the election, so it's going to have to, get that information soon. But we're still working on that. We just had Lev Parnas on the line. He's going to be joining us again Friday, and he's going to be coming in studio on Monday because I'm doing an event with him at Planet 13 in Las Vegas to show his documentary. That's going to be a lot of fun, so stay tuned for that, and I'll give you more information on how you can buy tickets to that. I promised you all I would be taking phone calls. What have we been talking about the first 45 minutes or so of this program? Well, we talked about John Kelly's statements that he has made to the New York Times, calling Donald Trump basically a fascist, his praise for Adolf Hitler, so on and so forth. We had Jon Ralston on talking about early voting for Republicans in the state of Nevada, but my question is, aren't most of these people that would normally vote on Election Day anyway? I think some of these Republicans are counting their chickens too soon here. So we talked to Jon Ralston about that. Great interview with him, and we just had a wonderful interview with Lev Parnas. And now we're taking your phone calls at 702-221-7283. Why don't we start off with Carl? Carl is first up on PTL. Hi, Carl.
Hey, Brian. How you doing?
Good.
Listen, you mentioned about some of the right mentioning that, Trump liked the generals who were with Hitler, but they weren't. Well, number one, they had to be Nazis because I studied a little of that in the background.
Sure.
And you couldn't have been a general for Hitler unless you were a Nazi.
Of course.
He wouldn't allow it.
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, that's obvious, but these MAGA buffoons, they just curl themselves into a pretzel for this piece of human garbage every single day. And it drives me nuts, man. It drives me nuts.
I know this. Yeah, I know this is a time of the year, and I want to try to put a little humor in if I can. What happens is whoever wins, either Harris is going to win or Putin's going to win.
Yeah,
one or the other. If you get my meaning.
I totally. Go ahead.
Yeah, and my last part is yesterday when he's working at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Well, this is very important that he was serving. It comes with what he's serving the burgers, and they come with a side of fries, and it came also with a side of lies.
Well, that's good. I like that, Carl. Hey, Carl, thanks for calling in, man. I appreciate you. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Darren. Darren is next up on PTL. Hey, Darren, what's going on? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian. Good to talk to you again. Colorado Springs.
Colorado Springs. Thanks for calling in, Darren. What's on your mind today?
Just two things that you kind of touched on this morning. First is a question for you. I was in the YouTube chat, and we were kind of discussing polling, and I noticed not only in the YouTube chat, but also my, day-to-day interactions and friends and family, finding somebody that's been polled is almost like a unicorn. I was just wondering if you and your show are ever did a poll on, your YouTube or your call-in show. I just wonder who are these people that are being polled.
Yeah,
that's my first.
I have a lot of questions with that as well. I've never put too much credence into polling because they take a very small sample size in most of these polls, and I don't think a lot of them are very, very accurate, to be completely honest with you. That's why I don't really bother with this stuff. I speak in general terms when I say that I don't know who's going to win this election. I have gut feelings, but I think it's very close, and I think it's a coin flip. I also say that I think Kamala Harris has a slight edge, and the reason why I say that is I don't think there's enough people who voted for Joe Biden in 2020 that will be voting for Donald Trump. But to the contrary, I think you can find more moderate Republicans that will either be voting for Kamala Harris or won't be voting for Donald Trump, and I think that's going to be the difference in the election. Now, that's my personal opinion, but I think it's going to be very, very close. With that being said, I am still worried. I am still worried, and we can't be complicit. I don't put too much credence into polls.
Do you think are they mostly phone call polling?
That I don't know. I don't know exactly how they do the polling, to be completely honest with you. I'm not sure, but I can tell you that from personal experience dating back to 2016, we all saw the polls were showing that Hillary Clinton was going to win in a landslide, and we all know how that turned out, my friend. So let's not try to worry too much about polls. Okay, let's not try to worry too much about polls. 702-221-7283. Who do we have next here? Let's go to Sean. Sean is next on PTL. Hey, Sean, what's going on?
Hello, Brian. How are you, my friend?
Good. What's up, Sean?
Love your show.
Thank you, Sean.
I'm from Canada, and I'm just an old call, Brian, but I'll tell you this. I agree with John. If you're an undecided voter, I believe the number of undecided voters in the States is about 7.
Yeah.
It's black and white at this point, right? And I also agree with you that Harris has the edge because I think there's many more Republicans that are going to vote for her that
I agree.
Admit it, right?
I agree with you. I do think that there are more Republicans out there that are going to be flipping and voting for Harris than the opposite. I completely agree with you, my friend, and I talk about that all the time on this show, and I appreciate you calling from Canada. And you're right. Couldn't agree with you more. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take one more quick break. It'll be the last break of the show. And then when we come back, you may have heard his commercials on this show. It's been a little while since he's been in studio. I certainly have a lot of respect for him. His name is Ron Quince, but what makes his story interesting, he's running for Congress. He's trying to unseat Dina Titus. But what makes his story very interesting is exactly what we were just talking about. I think there's a lot of MAGA Republicans out there, or Republicans in general, that feel like they've been left aside by the Republican Party. He's running as a nonpartisan to be your next congressman. Ron Quince is in studio, and he's going to be joining us next. We will take more phone calls in hour number 2 as well, because I'm sure you could ask Ron those same questions you're asking me about where the Republican is at now and how is he feeling about the elections, not just his own election, but the presidential election coming up in a couple weeks. So sit tight. For those of you that are on hold, we'll take more phone calls on the other side. Ron's going to be joining us in studio next. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
In these uncertain times, we need a leader who puts policy over politics.
I'm Ron Quince. I am beyond the bickering and what we see today. I am running to fight for your values, faith, family, and freedom.
Ron Quince stands for safe borders, lower taxes, and lower prices.
Let's take our country back, one community, one vote at a time. I am Ron Quince, and I'm asking for your vote because every vote matters. I am Ron Quince, and I approve this message.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams
and 7 terms in the U.S. House of Representatives. Shelley excelled as the Senior VP of the Touro University System. Shelley Berkeley, a dedicated mother and family woman. Shelley has the experience we need as our next mayor. Shelley gets things done.
Paid for by Shelley Berkeley for mayor.
Hello, I'm Ron Quince, and I'm running for Congress as a nonpartisan candidate in District 1. I'm dedicated to serving our entire community. In this challenging time, it's more important than ever to have leaders who focus on unity and progress. I believe in putting people over politics and finding practical solutions that benefit us all. Never stop believing in America, no matter our troubles and turmoil. We can and we will do better. We must be brave. Stop voting for those politicians who care about their career and gaining power but don't improve our lives. I believe in America and I believe in you. You need a candidate who believes in policy over party because you deserve better. In Nevada, every voice matters. I humbly ask for your vote this coming election, November 5th. To learn how we can create a better America, please visit quincefornevada.com. Paid for by Ron Quince for Congress.
In these uncertain times, we need a leader who puts policy over politics.
I'm Ron Quince. I am beyond the bickering and what we see today. I am running to fight for your values, faith, family, and freedom.
Ron Quince stands for safe borders, lower taxes, and lower prices.
Let's take our country back, one community, one vote at a time. I am Ron Quince, and I'm asking for your vote because every vote matters. I am Ron Quince, and I approve this message.
Really good chance that Donald J. Trump will be joining us. He's going to give us maybe 10 minutes of his time to start the show tomorrow. So you're not going to want to miss that. Some great guests lined up for the rest of the week. Some very special guests. Lev Parnas is going to be coming back on with us. And, of course, I'm hosting an event with him at Planet 13 on Monday. But speaking of which, we'll get back to the phone calls in a few moments here. But the guy joining us in studio right now, you've heard him on this show before. His name is Ron Quince, and he is running to be your next congressman. He's running against Dina Titus to try to unseat her. He is a former Republican who is now running as, I guess you could say, nonpartisan independent, and Ron joins us right now in studio. Ron, thank you so much for being here. It's been a little while. How you doing?
I know, Brian. Hi. Everything's good, man. Just campaigning, especially right now because the election's coming up soon. A lot of people are actually still wondering who they're going to vote for the president. So I've been asked a lot, especially with my constituents, and I tell them, don't worry about voting for the president right now. Start from the bottom and then work all the way up. Because the thing is, at that time, the people that you vote in the bottom, which is judges, local mayor, Congress, and U.S., that will actually guide you towards whose president you're going to vote for.
You mentioned the name president, though, and I do want to bring this up because he's a personal friend of mine. He's been doing my show for years, and I have a lot of respect for him. Former presidential candidate and former congressman out of Chicago, Joe Walsh, has endorsed you.
Absolutely,
that's a big deal.
Oh yeah, he's a great guy, and he told me I'm fresh, and I'm what Washington D.C. needs because new ideas and things like that, and is all for it. He knows that I used to be part of the Republican Party, and now, of course, I'm running as a nonpartisan.
That's a big deal. Joe Walsh is a great guy. All right, so if I had to ask you, because I think a lot of our listeners, some who may not be familiar with you, some who are, because you've done this show before, but why you left the Republican Party, Is it one thing? Is it two things? Is it several things? Why are you not running as a Republican? And what made you say, that's it, I don't want to be a part of this party anymore?
Well, multiple things. Actually, first of all, when I went to Memphis, Tennessee, because they have this Republican convention event, I asked some of the leaders of the Republican Party, because they keep saying that they're going to, like, we need Latino, we need African American, and we need the Asian community vote. But when I asked them what are they doing about it, they kind of like give me the runaround,
right?
That nothing. So now, as running as a minority candidate for Republican Party, I already know that I'm not going to get the support. So in my eyes, why are you telling us that you need Hispanic, Latino, Asian American, African American, to vote for the Republican Party, but if you're not even supporting the Asian, the African American, and the Latino Americans candidates.
Right.
So that's one. And then second, I'm just tired of just bickering inside the Republican Party. The problem about it is, of course, they have the other side, you have the right wing, and you have the moderate, and they cannot even get along inside the Congress and the Republican Party. How are we going to move this country forward if, as a party, you can't get along, and you have to publicize it? So now the people, the voters, they're not stupid. They know what's going on. Seeing that this party is actually collapsing in our eyes,
right?
And then how would you have a better leader in coming up from that party if they can't even organize themselves?
I think those are very understandable reasons. I think a lot of people are kind of tired of the alt-right, the MAGA Republicans that, eat and breathe Donald Trump. I want to get your thoughts on that. I don't know who you're going to be voting for. I assume you're not voting for Donald Trump, but I'm not assuming you're voting for Kamala Harris. You haven't said yet who you're voting for. Are you still undecided at this point?
I'm still undecided. I'm going to be voting on November 5th. And that's the time I'm going to make a decision who am I going to vote for. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm listening to my constituents and listening to their concern, like who they think is, the best president, to represent
what are you
this
hearing
country.
from them?
I'm hearing actually it's more like a debt, it depends who you talk to. Some people will say, of course, that they want to vote for Donald Trump because of taxes and things like that.
They must be rich then, because I don't really understand that. But hold on a second. You're a businessman. I want to talk to you about a very successful businessman. You started from the ground up. Not to compare you to Kamala Harris, but in this aspect, I will. You worked in fast food and you helped pay your way through school, which I respect a great deal. Let me start there. I just thought of something.
Okay, go ahead.
You worked in fast food when you were, trying to make your way.
16, yeah.
Yeah, when you were 16 years old. What do you make, and what went through your mind when Donald Trump had that staged fryer routine at McDonald's? As somebody who actually worked in fast food and made something of yourself, what did you make of that? Did you?
I think it's an insult to the people that actually started working in fast food, because the thing is, he's doing it as a publicity stunt, showing people that he worked at McDonald's, but he doesn't have to work at McDonald's. Kamala and I's situation is different because, we were working at McDonald's because we're trying to help our family. We're trying to help ourselves. So those are a little bit different because, if you look at it, we were working at the fast food restaurant because we're trying to make of ourselves.
Right.
He's working at McDonald's as a publicity stunt that he can tell people who work at McDonald's. Kind of like saying, I went to Harvard University, but I didn't really graduate.
That's a good analogy. No, but you're right. Like, I'm thinking to myself, I've been working since I was 16 years old, right? I never worked in a fast food restaurant, but I did work in a restaurant, and I know what it's like to work, to pay your way through school and all that stuff, right? And like yourself, when I saw that as a stunt, because that's what it was, the store was closed, there were no real customers in the store, and he's passing a few bags out and puts on an apron and looks ridiculous, by the way. He looks awkward and ridiculous. Why do some of his supporters think that, oh, well, that resonates with me? Some of his supporters actually liked that, and I'm thinking to myself, what is there to like about a publicity stunt like that where he's there for like 20 minutes and everything's rehearsed? I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't understand either. The thing is, it's like, what? Right now, it comes to the people, the working people that need to come out and vote. The problem is, like, people need to understand that it's different working in a restaurant. If I've worked in a restaurant, A lot of people have worked in a restaurant. It's intense. Doesn't matter if it's a full serve or a fast food restaurant. It's still intense. And if you're closing the door, kind of like having an interview right now that everything is scripted, and you just ask me whatever question is favorable to me, then it's not gonna be. We're shortchanging the listeners, because at the end of the day, our job is to educate people, not just to play a show. Because if we do, then you and I will be in Broadway.
Exactly, I agree. It shouldn't be a show. All right, so I want to talk about your two opponents real quickly here. And if you're just joining us, Ron Quince is running for Congress. He's trying to unseat Dina Titus. So you've got two opponents that we're worried about here, right? Mark Robertson, who's a staunch MAGA Republican, and Dina Titus. Let me get to Mark Robertson first, and then I want to get your thoughts. So Mark Robertson did this show when he ran for office in 2022, made a complete fool of himself. I feel like I ended his campaign on this show because at one point he's saying he doesn't trust Dr. Fauci. And then I asked him, do you trust Donald Trump? And he wouldn't answer my question. And he stuttered, and he stopped talking, and he paused. And I posted that on social media. And he looked like a complete clown, and he refused to come back on this show. And I treated him with respect. I respect his service, but I think he's a two-faced phony clown who wears the Donald Trump knee pads, for lack of a better term, and is so partisan. That's my personal opinion of Mark Robertson. Do you agree?
Absolutely, because what? Let me tell you something about Mark Robertson. You never see him in the Republican Party event because he's assuming that the Republicans are going to vote for him, and that's not the case. You still need to campaign on your party. Yeah. Second of all, he doesn't raise any money. He doesn't use his own money. You don't see him doing door to door. He cannot relate to a nonpartisan candidate or any Democratic candidate, Democrat voters. So, as far as I know, like if you're a Republican and you're gonna vote for Robertson, don't waste your vote. Vote for me if you want to
you still have some conservative values, maybe Reagan Republican values, right? Mm-hmm. So I agree with you there. Let's talk now about Dina Titus. I have nothing personally bad to say about Dina Titus. I think she's a very nice, sweet lady. She's done the show plenty of times. I don't have anything personally against her. But I will say this in general terms, I think we need, and I said this about you, we need younger people. All due respect to Dina Titus, she's a very nice lady. We need younger people, people that can work with both sides, and people that know what both sides want to a certain extent. You certainly know what Republicans want. You were a Republican for a long period of time. That's my thing about Dina Titus. Listen, she's done a good job. She's been there for a while, but I think we need some new blood. We need some younger blood.
Well, I have nothing against Dina Titus. The only thing that I have is practically Dina Titus has been a politician for so long. Mm-hmm. I believe that when we did the redistricting, she kind of stay away from the constituents' population, because we don't really know, we don't see her anywhere as well. The only thing that we see about her is her commercial.
Right.
And I know that she's probably she's serviced this country, she's done her job, and I think it's up to her to let us, the new generation, to take over, because we need to move forward here in America. And you know what, we will commend her service for all those times, because she's working the state, she works in the federal. But now I think she needs to give chances to us that we need to start running this country.
That's why I'm voting for Kamala Harris. Donald Trump, there's a lot of reasons why I'm not voting for Donald Trump, but he's too old. I think he's losing it day by day, talking about, as you mentioned, Hannibal Lecter or electrocuting sharks or whatever else he's talking about. And Kamala Harris is fairly young. And able, and I think equipped for the job. Ron, what do you say we take calls from people all over the country?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
And they'll be able to pick your brain a little bit and talk to you about some national issues. Ron is running for Congress. He's trying to unseat Dina Titus. He is undecided as of now. Are you leaning one way or the other? Or you're still kind of in. I don't think you're voting for Donald Trump. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think. Okay, here's my opinion, Ron, and you don't have to tell me whether I'm right or wrong. Here's my opinion. I don't think there's any chance you're voting for Donald Trump. I think it's 0%. Now, with that being said, I'm not saying you're voting for Kamala Harris either. Mm-hmm. I don't think you're voting for Donald Trump. I think you're on the fence and you're still wary with Kamala Harris maybe on some policy disagreements that you might have, and that might be holding you back a little bit. You don't have to tell me whether I'm right or not, but that's my feeling. If I had to pick your brain right now, I don't think there's any chance you're voting for Donald Trump.
We do have some policy that I need to go over with, with Harris.
And that's fine. But what would you say, before we go back to the calls, there are a lot of people that I talk to, moderate Republicans, whether it be Amy Tarkanians. You know, I've spoken to some people even that have switched their vote on this show that we're going to vote for Trump, and they say, listen, this election is about more than just policy. It's about integrity. It's about honesty. It's about having a moral compass. And I've talked to a lot of moderate, Joe Walsh being one of them, who's endorsed you, who's voting for Kamala Harris because he wants a competent, decent human being running the country. That's why he's not voting for Trump. So would you say that this election might be more than just policy? Policy is important, but maybe more than just policy.
It's more than just policy, because at the end of the day, we want to have some people that represent us that actually can do the job. Maybe she needs a little bit more help on her foreign policy, but the beauty about being a president and the beauty about this country is we have a Congress, we have a Senate, we have the Senate. She's not really gonna run the country by herself. Right. Everything, as far as law, policy, and things like that, it has to start in Congress, in the House. And then after it gets started in the House, then of course it goes to the Senate, and it goes to the Senate, then it goes to her. Either she signs it or she veto it. So at the end of the day, we need to educate people that, the president's there, but of course we still have the House that's very, very important, because they're the one that actually create the law and the policies in this country. And we need to identify, is this policy is going to be good that she can sign off, or is this policy that's going to be bad that she's going to sign off? At the end of the day, we need to choose first who are our first step, which is our Congress. And then after you identified who you're going to vote for Congress, then you identify who you're going to vote for Senate. Then after that, would those two fit for the president you're going to vote for?
So I agree with what you're saying. I think Kamala Harris is willing to work with Republicans a lot more than Donald Trump is willing to work with Democrats. And Kamala Harris said she already wants a Republican in her cabinet. She wants to get back to the bargaining table when it comes to a bipartisan bill at the border. And I think she's more equipped to at least be willing to listen to people on the other side, whereas Donald Trump has already talked about retribution. He's already talked about being a dictator just maybe on day one. And going after his political opponents. He's talked about using the military to go after some of the people like the Adam Schiffs and the Nancy Pelosi's and the people he doesn't like. This is crazy talk, Ron. He's a lunatic. This is crazy talk.
The only thing that I didn't like is both of them did the Latino segment, and I speak Spanish fluently, and I watched
Univision.
Both of them.
Yeah.
It's just like Kamala Harris is talking about changes, to the people, like what she would have done if, to make their lives better. The problem that, to me, Donald Trump, it came across that he's blaming the administration. That's why this thing's going on.
He was already president for 4 years.
So a lot of people already know. We know the problem, but now we need to come up with a solution, because the problem's already there. Like, don't cry over spilled milk. Let's find a way to fix the problem rather than just talking about it.
And Donald Trump just played the victim again. You're right, and he blamed all the problems on the current administration. Didn't take any responsibility for January 6th. In fact, he called it a day of love. Did you see some of the people rolling their eyes at that Univision event when Donald Trump said some off-the-wall crazy stuff? They were rolling their eyes. There were people that asked questions that weren't buying it. Just look at their body language. Kamala Harris, at her Univision event here in Las Vegas, which I attended, at least to me, from what I saw, was maybe some people didn't like all of her answers, but at least she talked about the future.
It gives you hope.
Right.
And that's what our voters need right now. The American people right now needs hope. We need to give them hope. We need to give them there's actually a light in the end of the tunnel.
Gotcha.
It's just not going to be like this.
Gotcha. All right, let's take some phone calls now. I said we get back to the phones. Joining me in studio is Ron Quince. He's running for Congress here in the great state of Nevada, trying to unseat Dina Titus, and can pick your brain on any of the topics that we talked about today. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to join the program and speak to Ron and myself. Why don't we start off with Bev? Bev is first up on PTL. Hi, Bev. Thanks for calling in. You're on with Ron. Go right ahead.
Hey, Brian and Ron. I didn't realize Ron was staying on for the calls when I first called in.
That's quite all right.
But I don't know if you have any undecided voters listening to your show, but I just have a plea to them.
Well, you're talking to Ron Quince right now. He's an undecided. So you're talking to him. Go ahead.
All right, then. I've got a big one here.
Okay.
Remember a few months ago, and if you don't remember, you can Google it, But a few months ago, the orange guy, and Brian calls him the orange man, but he doesn't deserve man.
Cheeto Jesus, yeah.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't deserve Jesus either.
True.
But that's neither here nor there. He said, if I win, you will never have to vote again.
He did say that. He did say
That should scare the crap out of every American.
Well, let's ask Ron that. Ron, she's right. Bev is right. He did say, you might never have to vote again. Just vote for me. When you hear him say that, what goes through your mind?
Well, first of all, that you know what, that's a violation of the Constitution of the United States. You know, he cannot do that. That's why we have the House, we have the Senate, and we have the judicial system. So by him saying that, if you're a voter, you got to think of yourself, wait a minute, I think that's false, because he cannot just say that. I think he's just doing it as a propaganda. But if I'm your congressman, doesn't matter what state you're living, I will make sure, down the ground, teeth and everything, that's not going to happen, because I will fight for our Constitution.
Yeah. And, you know, you never hear Kamala Harris make a statement like that. In fact, I guarantee you, if she loses, which I hope she doesn't, she will call Donald Trump and she will concede. Thank you for the call, Bev. Good question. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Lori. Lori is next up on PTL. Hi, Lori.
Hey, Brian. First of all, I think Ron's already made up his mind. He just don't want to say.
Ron, is that true? Is that true?
Something's wrong.
Well, you know what, the thing about it is, like, you know, I haven't made up my mind, but as far as I'm pretty sure, like, you know, Brian's almost 98% accurate. You know, it can be 99 because there's always like 2% chances that
Ron's not voting for Donald Trump. I'm telling you right now, he's not voting for Donald Trump. I'm not saying he's voting for Harris, but if he is going to vote, which it sounds like he is, I think we know. I think we know who he's going to vote for. But go ahead, Lori.
Well, I wanted to say this for the people, especially January 6th was a big turning point for me, you know, for something like that to happen. Why don't they go back and watch the January 6th committee hearing, and they can see all the evidence they had against Trump?
Here's the thing. Can I respond to that? And then, Ron, you can respond. I just want to say this. Donald Trump said he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and they would still support me. Let me tell you something. Donald Trump can show up at a rally in Las Vegas tomorrow, because he's going to be in Las Vegas tomorrow. I don't think I'm going to be going to it. He could show up in a Klan outfit, okay, and bring David Duke on stage and use the N-word. And many people in his base would still support him. These people don't care. They don't care that he praises Adolf Hitler. They don't care that he is responsible partially for what took place on January 6th. They don't care that he makes up stories about legal Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio. They don't care he won't concede the election. There's a large percentage of Donald Trump voters in this country that do not care. It doesn't matter what this man says or does. It's not changing their vote, Ron. It's not changing them.
And the problem about it, remember when he ran in 2016?
Yeah.
A lot of people actually don't even really like him. And then suddenly when he won the primary, the bandwagon just started.
Ron, half of his administration won't support him. Many that worked for him are going to be voting for Kamala Harris. Even his former vice president isn't supporting him. These are the people that knew him best. They worked with him. Why is that not important to these people? That's the part I don't understand.
I don't understand either. And a lot of people actually, we have, you know, like especially the working families, that they need to understand that when it comes to taxes and things like that, he has actually plans for the billionaires, but you know, he doesn't really have any plans for working Americans.
He has plans for the people that show up at Mar-a-Lago, the billionaires you know, he wants to save them money on their taxes. But you're absolutely right.
And by the way, Donald Trump was not a billionaire when he took the office. He's actually only worth $700 million. He became a billionaire when he became a president of the United States. That's a fact.
I agree. He's made hundreds of millions of dollars. Ivanka, his daughter, has made over $600 million from Chinese trademarks. We know what Jared took, $2.1 billion from the Saudis. He's swindling everything, whether it be his Bibles or his gold sneakers. You're absolutely right. 702-221-7283. All right, Las Vegas local. Let's go to Jason. Jason is calling in next. Hi, Jason. What's going on?
Okay, Brian, I really need you to do a whole show on the Atlantic interview if you really paid attention. Donald Trump is really nuts, and he had Kelly that would verify it. Mark Meadows would verify it. This guy was so crazy that he wanted the generals to be so loyal to him that it shocked Kelly. Yeah. But most of all, this is the most important point where I need you to do a whole show.
Yeah.
That lady that was the young soldier, the female that was beat up, and dismembered and hid for 3 months. And then they found her because it was another army man that actually did it.
Right.
Donald Trump out of his own mouth said, why do I have to effing take care of this Mexican? I want you to do a whole, and not only that, he also said he had no respect for servicemen because of the low salary
So
they
the story
accepted.
that, let me
And
just
so
give
the-
people a little background on what you're talking about. Trump is seen on video saying he would pay for this service member's funeral. And then from people that work for Donald Trump are claiming that the funeral cost $60,000 and Trump called him an effing Mexican and said, don't pay it. That's what the story that he is referring to. Let me ask you a question real quick since you are a Las Vegas voter. If Ron Quince says right now he's voting for Kamala Harris, will you vote for Ron?
Okay.
Quid pro quo.
But let me ask you a quick question, Ron. Who are you going to caucus with? If you get into Congress, who are you caucusing? What side are you caucusing? Because I'm just letting you know from my observation, we had the Republicans, the do-nothing Republican Congress that had passed no bills, and all it did was investigations. So if you get my vote, if you tell me who you're going to caucus with.
For the beauty about running as an independent, I have a choice, either I caucus with a Republican or a Democrat. Right now, the Democratic Party is talking to me. I haven't heard anything from the Republican.
Well, it sounds to me he's going to caucus with Democrats. Could that change your mind?
Yep, you got my vote. I'll put you in my. I'll make sure you're on my checklist.
And tell your friends
but more
too.
than anything,
there you go.
But but I say everything. Everybody put it on Facebook because I did it on Facebook. I went on vets vote for vets. I did everything I could to show how badly this guy is going to be the worst thing for our military. So any person that's a military, and all my Mexican brothers, you better realize, and sisters, y'all better realize one thing. Trump don't like none of you. He can't stand you.
He doesn't. Suckers and losers.
If you vote for Trump, you're voting for your own demise.
I agree.
Thank you for taking my call. God bless.
Great call. Thank you for the phone call. There you go. You got a new voter. We did a quid pro quo there. Well, not really. You told the truth. 702. Not like Donald Trump talking to Zelensky.
Right, I was
on the
always
phone.
tell you the truth. You know that.
I know that. I know that about you, and that's why I support you as well. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Brian. I like the name. Brian, what's going on? Thanks for calling in, man. What's on your mind?
Hey, my pleasure. Hey, Ron, got a question for you.
Go ahead.
What is your thought or stance or opinion on abortion?
The way the abortion works, it's like I'm not. I believe that abortion, it's good with health of the mother, incest, and of course rape.
Exceptions.
And exceptions. And I also believe in, of course, a woman doesn't wake up in the morning and say, "I'm going to be pregnant today." Usually, there's a lot of factors that can happen. We have, of course, we don't know if the father is gonna support, the woman that actually had that having the baby. I believe that first trimester should be okay. I believe here in the state of Nevada we have up to 22 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So
Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that. The thing is, the people have voted that they want abortion here in the state of Nevada. As your congressman, there's nothing I can do because this is a state issue.
You don't think there should be a nationwide abortion ban, though?
I think it's up to the state and how the way they want to do that.
But in 20 states in this country, because of Donald Trump helping to overturn Roe versus Wade, in 20 states in this country, abortion is illegal, and in some cases there are no exceptions for incest and other situations. Are you okay with that? Because I understand what you're saying, leaving it up to the states, but Roe versus Wade was in law for 50 years.
Well, at the end of the day, like it should be taken care of for the whole the whole country, because the
Right.
fact
agree.
of the matter is we're not, like what I said, it's not pro-life or pro-choice. It's about pro-option.
Right.
We have to give an option. I have two daughters.
There shouldn't be. It shouldn't be left up to the states.
I have two daughters, and I'm a raised Catholic with a Catholic faith. But when I thought about it, it's like, wait a minute, I want to have my daughter's, option, because we don't know what's the situation now. There's always two ends in the story. I would love the government to stay away on the woman's body,
right,
on the men's bodies as well,
of course. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what we want to give them, we want to give the woman an option. I believe about the health of the mother, incest, and rape, and of course, I would, the first trimester.
So you're somewhere in the middle. You're
yeah,
somewhere in the middle on this.
I just don't like the fact that we're letting abortion comes in on the late term abortion, more like when the baby's already 9 months,
It's
8 months.
I hear that, but it's not really happening.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
kinda
a very
like,
rare
yeah,
situation.
It's a rare situation, but sometimes it's kind
of
of
course,
like.
but Donald Trump on a debate stage said that they're executing babies after they're born. Doctors are, which is blatantly false. Brian, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I have one more question, if you don't
Okay,
mind.
sure.
Hey, Ron, if you were to be elected and you had carte blanche on anything in your first 100 days, what are your biggest issues you're dealing with?
Okay, right now, the first thing that we need to do is we need to identify what's going on with the inflation. I need to find out why are we spending so much money and where's that money going. Second of all, we need to talk to this big corporation that's keep increasing our bills, such as energy bills, gas bills, because we need to start putting restriction. It's not only we're hurting the people that actually trying to make ends meet, but we're hurting a lot of people because right now a lot of people have told me, Ron, we made a lot more money this time, but the thing is our bill is actually doubled. So we need to find a way to control that and making sure that the person that actually trying to work and trying to do their best get a heads up rather than getting behind.
Good answer. I like it. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Carrie. Carrie is next up on PTL. Hey, Carrie. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian.
Hey. What's on your mind?
I am wondering how Ron feels about Trump's most recent statement where he's praising Hitler.
Turn down your radio for me a bit because we're on a little bit of a delay. I will repeat that question because I think it's a good one, and we talked about it a little bit earlier in the show. Donald Trump, according to John Kelly and others that work for him, has praised Adolf Hitler, and he said on the record he's done some good things, quote, among other things that Donald Trump has said about Adolf Hitler. What are your thoughts on that?
I believe that, we cannot promote hate in this country. We came a long way, but instead of us moving forward and trying to abolish this hateness, we cannot recreate that again. We've seen it so many times. I don't want to say history repeat itself, but as voters, we have an opportunity to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah. I don't think there should be any place at all for anybody in any position, whether you're a teacher or a principal, working in an office, running a company, or running for president of the United States, to say anything positive about Adolf Hitler makes you one thing and one thing only, a fascist. And you could also go as far as to say maybe a Nazi. You can go far, certainly anti-Semitic, a bigot. And I don't want anybody like that in any powerful position in this country. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Virgil. Virgil is next up on PTL. Hi, Virgil. What's going on?
Hello. How's it going?
Good. What's on
All
your mind?
right. So, where do I even begin? You asked me a question.
Wait, so you're calling into this show and you want me to ask you a question? That's a first.
Yeah, sure. I'm a new
All right.
first-time
Who are you
caller.
voting for?
Oh, fucking Kamala Harris. Oh, I'm sorry. What's my language? Kamala Harris.
Okay, so are we going to be serious on this phone call, or are you just going to make jokes? Because if you'd like to have a serious...
No.
No. Hold on a second. Her name is Kamala Harris. If you're going to call into this show, you're going to pronounce her name right. You're not funny. You're not a stand-up comic. If you'd like to have a serious conversation, I'm happy to have one with you. If you want to make jokes, you're not funny. You're not entertaining anybody. So why don't you answer my question seriously? Who are you voting? If you're voting for Donald Trump, let's see if you're capable of having a serious conversation and if you have an IQ over 20. I'm giving you a test now, sir. I think you are, actually. I think you're smart enough to have a decent conversation. So let's start over from square one. Who are you voting for? And please be serious and answer the question honestly.
All right, so let us begin. I already voted, by the way. It was for Kamala Harris.
Okay, why did you call her? Okay, why did you swear and call her Mamala then? Why would you do that?
Well, that's like her nickname.
Okay, no, that's okay. Well, it was okay. Strange. Okay, so you're being serious now. You voted for Kamala Harris.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, tell me why. Why are you voting for Kamala Harris?
Well, I already did it because I vote for sanity, as Trump is demented, insane. Things, it's not all right in the brain, if you know what I mean. The guy is just demented. It's just so clear.
I agree with you. He is demented. We certainly agree on that front. What would you say to people out there that are voting for Donald Trump?
I would ask them to make sure if they're racist. Like, do you hate people? Like, I don't like to hate. Like, down with hate. Enough of that stuff.
Okay.
I just want people to get along.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the call, my friend. Thank you very much. That would be a first time in my 20-year career on the air that somebody called in and said, ask me a question. But the end of that call, I will give him credit, went a little bit better than I thought it would.
I agree.
Yeah, 702-221-7283, the number to call. Let's go to Lou. Lou is next up on PTL. What's going on, Lou?
Hey, Brian. Thanks for my political fix today. I greatly appreciate it.
You got it.
Couple things here. Some advice for Giuliani, since he's homeless in New York. He should go on RV.com. Maybe you could find a place to live.
Maybe when Steve Bannon gets out of jail, they can bunk together in like a studio in New York or something. I don't know.
There you go. Hey, I have a quick question for Ron.
Yep.
Ron, thanks for being on the show. What's your stance on gun control, sir?
Well, gun control, I'm a member of I have a CCW. I believe that gun is our Second Amendment rights. The only thing that I don't like is when guns are being sold to people that are not sane enough to have a gun. And second of all, if you're gonna own a gun, then you need to be able to learn how to make sure you protect that gun, so that's why the kids can't get to it.
Right.
Maybe an additional education that we need to implement, such as safety. Maybe when your kid's like 7 years old or 5 to 7 years old, take them to the driving like the shooting range once in a while, so that's why they can lose their curiosity. And last but not the least, I think the most important, that's why we have a lot of mass shooting going on in this country, is the mental health issue. We need to make sure that we provide mental health to our kids, because the problem is like the bullying is a lot different now than what it used to be. You agree with that, Brian?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with the era of social media.
Correct.
When we were in high school, we didn't have.
We didn't have that. We have beeper. That's it.
Right. Right. If that.
Yeah.
You're right. And listen, I will give Joe Biden credit. The fact that they put some bipartisan gun legislation on the books, the most in decades. More needs to be done. There's no question about that. You're right. We don't want guns in the hands of the wrong people. I also think that I agree with you, and most Democrats would agree with you that they're for the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. However, I think we need an assault weapons ban, and I think we need to teach people mandatory how to hold a gun, how to shoot a gun, how to store a gun. There has to be mandatory training. You have to be trained how to drive a car, and I understand driving a car is a privilege and owning a gun is a right. I get that. But we should also have at least a couple hours of training on how to use a weapon.
And that's what they did with people with a CCW. Like we have an 8 hours intensive
training. But you
training.
didn't have to do that, though, right?
Correct. I didn't have to do that, but I did it because, of course, like I wanna be able that understand how the way the guns work, because a person that just bought a gun doesn't know how to work it.
Right.
He could hurt themselves or he can hurt other people.
Correct.
That's why we need to have the proper training on that.
We're in agreement there. Thank you for the call, sir. Appreciate you. 702-221-7283. Really good questions we're getting today. Let's go to Charles. Charles is next up on PTL. What's going on, Charles?
Hey, Brian. I'm a regular caller. The first thing I wanted to do is congratulate you on your syndication, because I know you put your heart and soul in the show.
Thank you, sir.
And it
I
shows.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Bravo to you, my
appreciate that. Thank you very much.
I guess next I'll go for the low-hanging fruit. The Trump quote about having generals around him like Hitler did. I have to remind the MAGA buffoons that Hitler's generals tried to assassinate him on multiple occasions. So.
They did.
Maybe that's what he needs.
Very true. They did. You're absolutely right about that.
And then the last news tidbit, we've seen Bob Woodward and we've seen these generals come forward at the 11th hour with some of these epiphanies. And it's really discerning, though. I wish they would have come forward. And I think that at this point in time, these guys need to hold a press conference, because we've got a whole lot of members of our military that are MAGA. And I think that in person, if these guys would hold a news conference and actually relay and convey those facts, to the general public would probably
it's
carry
amazing.
a lot of weight, a lot more than having reporting.
I don't seem to understand why you listen to some people that have served this country honorably that can defend or twist themselves into a pretzel to try to defend the horrific statements and the behavior of Donald Trump when it comes to his behavior at Arlington Cemetery. By the way, I'm mentioning the stuff we know, not hearsay. The stuff he said about John McCain, doesn't respect John McCain because he was captured. This is stuff that he has said that we know. And by the way, I'll take the word of a man like John Kelly over Donald Trump any day of the week. He did call people suckers and losers that serve this country. He has praised Adolf Hitler. And if you don't believe that and you think John Kelly is the liar and Donald Trump is the guy telling the truth, then you are an imbecile. You're an imbecile that watches Newsmax. You're an imbecile that is brainwashed. And you're an imbecile that is dangerous to this country.
No, and I think another problem that we have is domestically, we have Trump make statements that are totally off the wall. And then we have to listen to his surrogates tell us what he really means. And we have the luxury of being able to hear that. But I'll tell you that our partners around the world don't get to unwind the crazy statements. And that's incredibly dangerous.
You are 100% correct.
100% correct on that. Yep.
Yeah. We can't have these dangerous statements, especially from anybody, especially somebody that is wants to be, again, the leader of the free world. It's so dangerous. Like, when you hear the story that Donald Trump, during the heart of the pandemic, when we needed COVID test kits, and he sent them to the Kremlin, he sent them to Vladimir Putin. What goes through your mind when you hear a story like that? It's crazy.
It's just amazing how the way, I don't know if he's doing it on purpose or it's really he's doing it jokingly. I remember the time that he was talking about the sanitizer. If you drink it, maybe you don't get the COVID get resolved inside your body,
how
which is
you,
like,
how could you
well, you're gonna drink a sanitizer, okay?
You're right, but when Americans so desperately at that time needed COVID tests, and he sends them to the Kremlin, I think that's all you need to know about Donald Trump.
I think one of the things that we need to do in this country is we need to educate them that economy-wise, a lot of people are praising that Donald Trump's economy was good because he was the president at that time, but people need to understand that it's always goes 4 years before that. So let's just say, and I've researched, I've studied this, that the economy, that's why it was good during Donald Trump's day, is because that's what Obama was working with before he left the office.
Right.
Same thing goes with Clinton. Clinton's economy was great because you know what? That time it's like Bush was working towards that economy.
Right.
And now people might, MAGA might hate it, but the reason that we have such a bad inflation right now is maybe that's the aftermath of Donald Trump's administration.
That COVID, obviously the war in the Ukraine.
People need to understand a little bit more. You need to, that's why I always tell my voters, go out there, educate yourself. I'm not going to ask you to vote for me. I want you to find out what I can bring to the table.
I agree with you, and that's a nice sentiment, but some of these people can't be educated. They're ill-informed. They want to blame Joe Biden for the price of their eggs. They have no understanding of inflation and how it works and cause and effect. Let's go back to the phone lines, but before we do, Ron Quince joining us in studio. He's running for Congress here in the great state of Nevada, and former presidential candidate and personal friend of mine, Joe Walsh, has officially endorsed him. Who are we going to do next here? Let's go to Ray. Ray is next up on PTL. What's up, Ray?
Hey, Brian. How you doing? Future Congressman Kinsick. Going along with your last caller, I have a question. So let's say in a horrible world, Donald Trump is elected and he wants to fulfill his promises on going after his political opponents, say jailing, executing, whatever. What does a Congressman Kinsey do?
Well, what we have to do is practically we have to stop that. Unless the only thing that the Congress can stop Donald Trump is if he put all of us in prison, like what Hitler did in the old World War II.
So, like, if Donald Trump, hypothetically speaking, goes after his political rivals and uses the military to do so, it's a horrible hypothetical, but
it is.
I'm asking it because Donald Trump is the guy who said he was going to do it. So I have to ask the question, what can Congress do in that situation? Are we going to have a civil war? What happens?
Most likely, well, the Congress can fight it, but in order for him to do that, I don't think both parties are going to allow him to do that, because our job is to make sure that, the president does not get too much power. It's probably going to, unfortunately, civil war is probably going to happen at that time. But as your congressman, I will fight that, make sure we preserve this Constitution, and Donald Trump doesn't.
But Ron, you know what I don't like? I don't like the fact when some of these MAGA Republicans, he's not really going to do that. He doesn't mean it. I take every word that he says, and I take it to heart, and I say he's probably telling the truth. Just because somebody might think, well, it'd be really hard to get it done, doesn't mean he's not going to try to do it. He's going to use day one as a dictator, as he said. I believe him. He's going to go after political rivals. He's going to go after people that have been calling him out, and I take him for his word on that. I think it's the only time he's probably ever telling the truth. He wants retribution. He wants to remain out of jail, and he wants to go after his political rivals. He doesn't care about this country. He only cares about himself.
The best way for us to do that, so that's why he doesn't have that much power if it gets to that point, is we need to make sure that we have a bipartisan House, bipartisan Senate. Because if he hits a trifecta and those like Republican, and Republican president, and now I think he has Republican in the executive branch, judicial branch, what we need to do is we need to make sure that we are voting for the right people that doesn't do that. Because let's say he decided to do that.
Right.
If it's still a bipartisan House and Senate, it's going to be hard for him to do it, and it's going to be like nail biting, because a lot of people are not going to allow it to happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Kim. Kim is next up on PTL. What's going on, Kim?
Hi, this is Kim from Dallas. I called yesterday. Real quick, don't ever underestimate what Donald Trump would do if he got into office. If you want to talk about a true dictatorship and what that looks like, we all know what Project 2025 indicates. He's also now immune from any act he does. Don't think twice that he would not take out the Senate and the Senate and the Congress.
I don't underestimate it. I agree.
Right?
I don't underestimate anything he says. Look at what happened on January 6th. He calls it a day of love when people died. I'm with you, my dear. We cannot.
And I'm more directing that to Ron, because Trump will easily go in with his military and take out the Senate and the House. And if you don't think that's possible, then you're delusional.
I agree.
That is what a true dictatorship is.
Yeah. He wants to be a dictator.
It'll be his way.
Yeah.
Right. He will remove people, whether he just handcuffs them out or shoots them.
Yeah.
He is now immune.
I agree. And, I said this on social media, and I said this on the show today. If Adolf Hitler was still alive, he'd be writing Adolf Hitler love letters and he'd be sending him COVID test kits. I really believe that. He admires evil, murderous dictators. He's a sick person. 702-221-7283. Dave is next. Hey, Dave. Thanks for calling in. What's going on?
Hi, Brian. How are you?
Good.
I heard a quote today. That's all I'm going to share, okay? Hitler was known to be a good man with dogs. He liked dogs, and he was an artist. And so, therefore, we should just agree with everything else that he does. And that's kind of where Trump's followers are right now. Trump likes his daughter, so everything's okay, or whatever,
Right. Yeah, you know what? It's interesting. Some people, when they talk about serial killers in court, they'll say, well, he did this for charity. And my response, kind of like what you're saying, right? And my response, guys, is like, who cares? I don't care what you did for charity. I don't care if you've done any good things in your life. What matters is right now, the horrible things that you've done, the horrible things you say on a regular basis, the fact you're a 34-count felon, the fact that you're a liable sexual abuser, what happened on January 6th, just because you went to a soup kitchen or you held a Bible upside down as a photo op in front of a church, or for 15 minutes you learned how to make French fries, doesn't make you a good person. Doesn't make you a good person.
Hey,
I think, it's crazy.
I have a question.
Yeah.
All right. If, heaven forbid, Trump is elected, what's going to happen to you? And what's going to happen to MSNBC? What's going to happen to any kind of media that is in opposition to Trump? Are we going to
I'll
be
say
like
this.
a Russian Politico?
It's a good question. It's a good question. I'm going to answer you in the most honest way I can. My show is going to be just fine. There are actually some people that make the argument that my show will even be more popular if Donald Trump wins. Now, I don't want Donald Trump to win, but I'm not worried about me. I'm not going to be crying if I find out Donald Trump won. I'm going to be extremely disappointed. And I'll be worried for the country.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be worried for the country. Don't get me wrong. I take this very seriously. I'm going to get up in the morning. I'm going to put my shoes on. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to do my radio show, and my life goes on. Now, there are some people that might not have that luxury, like the Lev Parnases of the world, who I had on earlier. I do think he will go after those people legally. As far as the media goes, Newsmax will be strong, and Fox News will keep doing their thing. But, Ron, I don't know if you agree with me, but I think I think the media will be okay. When he says he's going to go after the media, I believe him, but I don't think he's going to succeed in that.
No, I don't think he will, because of course they're still protected of First Amendment, and also that even though he's the president of the United States, we still have a lot of powerful people that that runs the media, because the media is supposed to be for the people, and I don't think he's going to be able to do that. He might be able to shut them down, but if you think about it, I think there's a lot of billionaires in this country that actually can stop him.
Agree. I have about 30 seconds for Al. Al, I'm running against the clock. Hi, Al. Thanks for calling. Go ahead.
We'll carry it on later, but very quickly, I want Mr. Quince to tell me, what's he going to do for minorities? Charles Barkley said that he's not supporting Democrats because they make a bunch of promises, like when Obama went down here to Cheyenne High School, lowest test scores in the 4% only people can do math. What can you do for minorities?
Al, I'm a minority myself, just like you. I'm going to do exactly what I'm doing right now. Help the minorities, make sure they have the proper education. Help them with the small business, because some of them need to achieve the American dream. And second of all, make sure that they can feel like they're that they belong in this country. Because the problem is right now, I'm seeing, and I was with you in the Republican Party, and I think we're like the two minorities in that place. I've seen how the way they treated you. I've seen how the way they treated me. They're making us like servers for them. But you're an educated man. You have an engineering degree, and I have an accounting degree. They should look at us like a lot more higher and try to help them, better the party rather than pushing us away and telling us to put flyers.
And that is why I support Kamala Harris. If you go to one of her rallies, it's full of diversity. Full of diversity when you go to one of her rallies. So many people look like you, diversity. And then when you look at a Trump rally, it's 99% illiterate, uneducated, middle-aged white people. And that's why Ron has left the Republican Party, and I applaud him for doing so, and that's why I support him to be your next congressman. Ron, before we go quickly, how can people follow you and help you with the campaign? We're in the final stretch.
I want to tell everybody to come out and vote. Tell your family, your friends. We have 3 ways to vote now. Mail-in ballot. Right now it's on early voting, and of course you have the November 5th voting on your own precinct. Encourage them to come out and vote. Let's make a change in this country. And if you need information in regards about my campaign, visit my website, quincefornevada.com. Follow me on social media, Ron Quince 2024. Let's put this country back together and make it better.
Well, Ron, that's why I'm supporting you, and I hope Ron becomes my next congressman in the state of Nevada. Ron, I do appreciate you being here. Tomorrow on the show, everybody, Anthony Scaramucci, the Mooch, is going to be joining us, and there is a possibility that we could get Donald Trump to start the show tomorrow because he's going to be in town tomorrow. So there's a chance we might be able to get Donald Trump on the show, which would be pretty cool. I want to ask Cheeto Jesus a few questions. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Check out the website, pushingthelimits.live, where you can help support the show, donate, buy merchandise. We will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a great day, everybody.
In these uncertain times, we need a leader who puts policy over politics.
I'm Ron Quince. I am beyond the bickering and what we see today. I am running to fight for your values, faith, family, and freedom.
Ron Quince.